What's happening, fight fans? John Ramdeen with you. This is Fight News Now. Welcome to Fight News Now. I'm your host, John Ramdeen, and on this week's edition of the show, we catch up with Rashad Evans, who gives us his take on friends fighting friends in the cage. A UFC Hall of Famer makes it into SI's top 50 greatest athletes of all time, and with GSP, Anderson Silva, Cain Velasquez, and Anthony Pettis all away from the octagon, you gotta wonder who's carrying the UFC when it comes to star power. We'll give you the details on that later on in the show. Robin Black will pop by to join me for 3 rounds, and the Shift takes a closer look at one of the summer's major blockbusters. But before we get to that, here's this week's newsmakers. There always seems to be a bit of an issue between mixed martial artists when it comes to friends fighting friends in the UFC. For Rashad Evans, it will be the second straight time he'll have to lace up the gloves and punch one of his buddies right in the face. I had a chance to catch up with the former champion, who expressed his thoughts on the subject.
I don't know why they have me fight the guys who I work with and my friends. You know, DC is one of my good friends. Chael's one of my good friends. But DC, you know, we're definitely closer. You know, we're part of Team Thirsty together. Remember Team Thirsty? Me, Mo, DC, Team Thirsty. We were boys together, man. And I knew these guys when they were wrestling at Oklahoma State. Even when DC first decided to fight, he came out to Denver to help me train for Rampage, and that's where I took him down 2 times in a row. He had denied it to this day, but I took him down 2 times in a row. And I think what they're trying to do more than anything is just show that this is a business and it's a fight business, and in the fight business, you may have to fight your friends. You always have the right to say you don't want to fight anybody, you know. You can always, at the end of the day, refuse to fight. Is there a backlash? I wouldn't say, I mean, there was always a backlash. If I say I'm not gonna fight Daniel, then if he's a top guy and I wanna go for the belt, we have the same dreams and ambitions, then how is that even possible? You know what I'm saying? So if I say I wanna fight for the belt and he's in my weight class and he's going for it, then we gotta fight each other. Now, if I was just gonna go out there and I was gonna just fight and compete, then I can say, yeah, I don't care. Let him fight for the belt. I just wanna fight. But when you have your eye on the title and somebody else had the eye on the title in the same weight class, then it's only one way that it's gonna happen.
AKA product Daniel Cormier will finally make his light heavyweight debut at UFC 170 when he clashes with his friend and broadcast partner Rashad Evans. Despite his success at heavyweight, the NCAA Division I wrestler has often been criticized as a small heavyweight. This cut has been a long work in progress, and Cormier weighs in on the advantages and disadvantages of dropping down to 205 pounds.
I think I lose the speed advantage that I had at heavyweight more than anything. I think the guy's going to be faster. I'm not going to be any taller. The guys are still going to be taller than I am. They're still going to be bigger. I'm just not going to be as fast as the guys that I was fighting before. But I gained some things too. I gained more cardio, the ability to go harder. And I think that I couldn't really fight the way I wanted to at heavyweight because the size was so different. Whereas if you watch Cain fight, he can just get in their face as long as he wants. I think I'll be able to do that against 205-pound guys.
Even though these 2 guys get along, Evans has engaged in some friendly taunting, stating at DC MMA, "One ambition at a time, my pudgy friend. Make weight and I will let the fight last at least 1 round for your efforts. I like you." Eddie Alvarez versus Michael Chandler 1 and 2 were 2 of the most exciting bouts in the history of the sport, and Bellator has decided to give us the 3rd installment of the trilogy. Bellator lightweight champion Eddie Alvarez will have the chance to make history, as he and Chandler will be the first to headline a pay-per-view for the promotion. MFC CEO Marc Pavelich was recently on the MMA Meltdown with Gabriel Morency, where he was very candid about his opinions on the World Series of Fighting as another competitor in the market.
In my industry, you got to make $1 before you can open your fat mouth. And I know for a fact that World Series hasn't made $1. Because someone injected $90 gazillion into their product and they decided to think they're one of the bigger brands of MMA in the world, no offense to them, but the facts are the facts. They haven't made $1 in the MMA business. And until they make $1, they should shut their pie hole.
The war of words continue to fuel the fire between middleweights Michael Bisping and Tim Kennedy. Bisping has been out of action since his decision win over Alan Belcher in April of last year, and widely regards Kennedy as his tune-up fight upon returning to the octagon.
He's beneath me as a fighter. I really do feel that. I've been around the UFC for a long time fighting the best. He's had 2 fights, you know, but whatever. You know, initially I wasn't going to fight the guy because those were my feelings, but you know, he's just been going on and on and on. And there's interest in the fight now. People want to see it. A lot of people on Twitter, you know, want to see me beat him up, if I'm honest. So, you know, I need a tune-up fight coming back after a while, so Tim Kennedy's the man that's going to get it. I think it's a good matchup for me. Does it get me closer towards the title shot? Absolutely not. Do I get to shut this guy up and put him in his place and put a few dollars in my bank account while I'm at it? Yes, it does. So hopefully that's what's going to happen.
He is the first ever tournament champion in the UFC, as well as the first inductee in the promotion's Hall of Fame. Now Royce Gracie can add another accolade to his list of accomplishments, as he was recently named number 44 on Sports Illustrated's list of the top 50 greatest athletes of all time. Congratulations, Royce Gracie. A number of fighters and managers have been vocal when it comes to the control of the purse strings. Top payouts in mixed martial arts have been compared to those of boxing, and a number of MMA promoters have been criticized regarding the distribution of wealth. JT Warsh of the Inner Circle Agency weighs in on this hotly debated topic.
Ultimately, I do this because I see what these guys are getting paid. And people in the management aspect of it, they don't get paid enough. And the fighters don't get paid enough. It's the conglomerate, the company, the 3 letters. I'm not going to say the 3 letters because everyone knows the 3 letters. At the end of the day, what I like to do is to put money into their pocket, because every fighter has bills to pay, they got mortgages, some have children, and at the end of the day, when they stop fighting, what are they going to do? So it's nice to build the nest egg, so eventually down the road you have that money. Because, you know, some guys are not as fortunate as others, and that 1%, like the GSPs and the Brock Lesnars and the Chuck Liddells and the Titos, make enough money to live for the rest of their life. There's a lot of guys that don't have that opportunity. So, though, you know, we like to work with the guys to give them that opportunity down the line to fall back on. Because hypothetically, if they don't fight, what are they going to do? What I want to see is all of these fighters as individuals to be taken care of, where they are compensated properly. Okay, and football players, hockey players, baseball players, tennis players, they are making so much money doing what they're doing versus what mixed martial artists are doing. And MMA fighters, their training regimen is so far beyond what the rest of these athletes are doing. I want to see them getting compensated more for what they're doing. You don't play MMA. It's no joke. They need to be compensated on a better level. The sponsorships and just more support from the 3 letters and the management inside there, because the 3 letters, they've made enough money. The world knows how much money they're making. Just pay these guys more money.
George St-Pierre has taken a leave of absence. Anderson Silva, Cain Velasquez, and Anthony Pettis remain on the sidelines for the foreseeable future. With a number of the top stars out of action, Jon Jones, Ronda Rousey, and Chris Weidman will all have to carry the load for now. Here's a look at the UFC's current star power.
Over the last 3 years, George St-Pierre and Anderson Silva have been the kings of UFC pay-per-view. GSP has done no less than 600,000 buys for any of his bouts over the time span, and Silva's loss to Weidman in December did the UFC's biggest number since 2010. However, with both fighters out of action for an indefinite period of time, who will fill the void? The biggest hope may be laid on the shoulders of Chris Weidman. His 2 bouts with the Spider were certainly big draws, and his next title defense against Vitor Belfort will truly tell the story of how well the All-American has caught on with the fans. Jon Jones has been a dependable pay-per-view draw, but decimating the big names at 205 pounds has left his buy rates dwindling over the past 2 years. Despite the disinterest in his first bout with the Swede, after the war they put on, the rematch would certainly put the pound-for-pound number 1 back over the 500,000 buy mark. Cain Velasquez is a proven draw, but injuries have once again put the heavyweight champion on the shelf. Ronda Rousey had just under 500,000 pay-per-view buys in her first UFC bout against Liz Carmouche, and her second bout against Miesha Tate certainly helped the number for UFC 168. But will her matchup against soft-spoken fellow Olympian Sarah McMahon draw the same interest? At 145 pounds, Jose Aldo has held the title since its inception in the UFC. Certainly UFC 169 will tell if Renan Barão and Jose Aldo are capable of carrying a pay-per-view card. The return of BJ Penn to the UFC could certainly bolster some numbers, but after the way Penn's last run in the UFC went, he may have some fans to win back. Chael Sonnen has also done great numbers in title fights against Anderson Silva and John Jones. And with a coaching stint opposite Vanderlei Silva on The Ultimate Fighter Brazil, we could see the two bitter rivals draw major numbers, despite the bout not meaning much as far as rankings. When the UFC has lost pay-per-view draws in the past, others have stepped up to carry the torch. With so many stars being developed on free network television cards, 2014 should see other stars step into the limelight.
Coming up after the break, Robin Black and I battle it out for 3 rounds. Now joined by Mr. Robin Black, and UFC 169 goes down on Super Bowl weekend. And Robin, I had no idea the Super Bowl was even happening, because to me the biggest thing in sports was Jose Aldo fighting, Renan Barão fighting, and Uriah Faber. But do the masses actually care about this card?
First of all, John Ramdeen, what the f is the Super Bowl? I have no idea what that thing is. The masses better care about this one, particularly that main event, because this could be one of the great fights of the year. It's early in the year, but man, Renan Barão is thought of by many as one of the, if not the best fighter in the world right now. When we did our year-end review, I had him as the most underrated fighter. Weird to give, a champion the most underrated ranking, but this guy is so unbelievably good. He's not just, you don't look at his skill level and say it's great. It's like perfection. Like, he is so good the way this guy moves. And then you've got Uriah Faber, one of the great athletes ever in the small weight divisions, mentally unbreakable, physically unbreakable, taking it on short notice and wanting it bad. This is badass.
Uriah Faber having a banner year in 2013, 4 victories, which was almost unheard of when you think about that. But Renan Barão, this is a guy that I think he's flown under the radar because, number one, he doesn't talk smack. Number two, he doesn't even speak English. So a lot of the casual fans can't relate to this guy because they don't know what he's saying. But you talk about his skills. Number one, he trains with Jose Aldo. He's coached by Andre Pederneiras. He trains with all those animals down in Novo União. This guy is going to continue to improve. But I think if any Uriah Faber is going to beat him, it is the 34-year-old Uriah Faber in 2014.
Yeah, I love it, man. When you talk about that gym and you ask somebody, oh, you went down to the gym and you trained with Jose Aldo, how was he? They're like, amazing. But Renan Barão, that's who they want to talk about because he's a spectacular athlete. BJ Penn just talked about it. He's down there at Novo União, and he said that this guy blew his mind with how good he is. Then you get Uriah Faber, and yes, he's skilled, and yes, he's explosive, and he's a physical specimen, but it's his mental desperation to win this that makes it so vital.
Renan Barão lost his mixed martial arts debut, has gone undefeated in 30 straight fights. The run that this guy's been on since coming to either the WEC or the UFC has been simply phenomenal, taking out absolute killers. But Uriah Faber, you talk about his mental aptitude. Number one, he obviously coached very, very well now that he's brought in Dwayne Ludwig, so his striking has gotten very, very sharp. But the fact is, and you've talked about it before, that he is now ready to go out and fight Renan Barão. These guys, of course, fought at UFC 149, a very different fight moving forward, what Uriah Faber anticipates.
Yes, and we just sung the praises of Renan Barão, one of the great fighters in the world. So what is it about Uriah Faber? He's a winner. This guy doesn't understand what it is to fail at anything. And we have him physically programmed and mentally programmed to be this great competitive mixed martial arts athlete who's now going in there. The reason people don't just kind of show up and fight, get in there and get face-to-face with a guy in a position where he can knock you out and you can knock him out, because that's called rolling the dice. You stand in there, maybe you'll win, maybe you lose, you're going to roll the dice. That's what this guy is forced to do with only a month to prepare. This is going to be, no matter how it unfolds. So Uriah Faber upsets the great champion and regains it. The great champion shows that there's nobody left at 135. You get 5 crazy rounds, you get a knockout in 30 seconds. However this one goes, it will be special.
You want to talk about one of the greatest in mixed martial arts, Renan Barão's training partner, Jose Aldo, simply phenomenal, really outstanding everywhere, although we haven't really seen his ground game. We saw Mark Hominick take him down, but we really didn't get to see the best Jose Aldo. We know when he's standing, he's absolutely brutal. Very few people can stand and hang with this guy. Just ask Uriah Faber. Those low kicks, those low leg kicks, some of the best in the business. But for his opponent, Ricardo Lamas, I just don't know how he's going to be able to take this guy out, Jose Jose Aldo, more experience, better training partners. But you know what they say, anything can happen.
Jose Aldo is a game day performer too. Uriah Faber is as well. But this guy, he's great. He's got all kinds of talent. He's super explosive. He cuts a lot of weight. He's got all these great things. But on game day, he's even better. That's an incredible rarity in any kind of performer, any kind of athlete. So that is special about him. But you know, Lamas, we saw him fight once in 2013, once in 2012. So we don't even know what he's doing. We don't know what he's going to bring to it. He's very powerful. He's really good and mean and ornery on the ground. He's got good wrestling. He's big. But you know, Chad Mendes is kind of that. And we saw Jose Aldo put him away. Ricardo Lamas is a giant underdog. I don't know if he's plus 700 in the betting. This anything can happen concept is always true, but Jose Aldo on game day is so good. It's going to be really, really hard for anybody at 145 to beat him. If he can go in there and really, really put away his opponent in this fight, I think we'll see him move to 155 and challenge for that.
I know for the casual fans, if they're not into Renan Barão or Jose Aldo, the reason to tune into this pay-per-view is to see the monsters, Frank Mir and Alistair Overeem. And you kind of got to feel bad for these guys. Overeem, back-to-back losses. Frank Mir looking at his 4th loss in a row. That's the problem with mixed martial arts. Instead of saying, you know what, we have an outstanding matchup, guys, just bring it. Put on a show. We don't care if you win or lose. Just make sure you entertain the masses and you'll always have a job. But that's not the mentality right now.
It's true. These guys have lost to the 5 of the best heavyweights in the world right now, and heavyweights have never been better than they are right now. So arguably 5 of the best 20 heavyweights ever. Because all of the heavyweights right now are more athletic, scarier, they move faster, their skills are better, they're performing better than they ever have. Mir has a good mouth on him. He's exciting. Everybody's interested in all of his fights. Overeem came in to be this giant destructive robot going in and smashing and destroying cities as he wanders through the landscape. He hasn't been that yet, and he better be that against Frank Mir. It'd be sad to see either of these guys get cut, but this is a really, really crazy fight. 250 plus pounds each guy. That's 500 pounds a killer.
We got to talk about tough nations, Australia versus Canada. Are people still excited about this show? I'll be honest, I haven't got a chance to watch any of Tough China just because, number one, we know the quality of fighters are not there yet. For Canada, we have great gyms, we have great training partners for these guys. On this show, you have obviously your guy Elias, Cajun Johnson on the show, Nordeem Taleb on the show, but conversely for the Australians, do they have that depth of talent?
Yeah, we're going to find out. Australia and Canada, after Brazil, are 2 of the biggest markets, so it's going to work in that area. It's weird. I feel really biased, and I feel like the fact that I haven't been watching the other toughs, but I manage Elias, who's on the show, and we've called the fights of every other Canadian on this. We know them. We know their skills. Suddenly, I'm understanding why this show can work for people, because if you have a vested interest in these fighters, which we clearly do, now all of a sudden you're really curious to see it. So I think looking at it, fairly, stepping back and looking at it fairly, if you can get the audience invested in these fighters early, because as I said, we're invested, we care. If you can get the audience invested early, I think people pay attention to the show. But the whole model of reality TV is a little bit iffy. It's being used whether you're a chef or a singer or a fighter or whatever. I don't know if people still want to pay attention to it, but hey man, I manage one of the guys in it, so I'm pretty excited.
But when you look at the talent, especially the Australians, they just haven't faced the level of competition that some of the Canadians have faced, and also the fact that some of these guys train with guys like George St-Pierre and Rory McDonald.
Well, the Canadians think they're going to run right through them, so we'll see. But everybody thinks that.
Don't change that channel. We got more Fight News Now coming your way.
Ready, go!
Welcome back to Fight News Now. I'm your host, John Ramdeen. And every summer there's always a barrage of big epic films. Well, with more on that, here comes Priscilla Carapan with The Shift.
Spider-Man, Electro, and the Rhino. Yes, this summer we'll see an epic showdown that's sure to rock Peter Parker's universe in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This time around, there's more secrets, action, and heartache to be revealed as Andrew Garfield, Jamie Foxx, and Marc Webb tell us what we can expect from this wall-crawling blockbuster.
Every day, I wake up knowing that the more people I try to save, the more enemies I will make.
Really one of the most exciting chapters in Peter Parker's life. He's learning to be really good at being Spider-Man, very agile, and there's a sort of level of virtuosity that we haven't seen before.
He's two different people. He is Spider-Man, he is the older brother, and then he is Peter Parker, he is the younger brother. There's something you're not telling me, Aunt May.
I once told you that secrets have a cost.
The younger brother in the shadow of himself, and the older brother that's more than human. He gets this incredible release as Spider-Man, but also that dream ends at a certain point. He has to come home and feel the bangs and the bruises and the scrapes.
Soon, everyone in the city.
I knew a lot about Electro before even getting the part. Being betrayed by love, being betrayed by his family, and being betrayed by his job.
I know how it feels to live in a world.
He wants to burn the city down.
Without Spider-Man.
He's godlike in his power, and when you come into contact with him, you're obliterated.
It's going to be a much more fun picture.
Well, it's like a crazy superhero opera. Bigger, funnier, louder.
It's like being on drugs, but you're not really on drugs. It's just a lot of energy. It's like adrenaline has just been, like, you've been stabbed everywhere with adrenaline.
That's it for the shift this week. Back over to you, John.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. And now it's time for your weekly dose of internet magic. And I'm told this week our guys searched far and wide to bring you this exciting matchup.
Don't move. Stop. Ready, go.
That had to be rigged because there is no way Bob Sapp would beat Fedor in anything. And that wraps up this week's edition of Fight News Now. We want to give a special thanks to Rashad Evans and the Inner Circle Agency. And don't forget, you can catch 5 rounds every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. And for more Fight News Now, check us out on YouTube/Fight Network. And on behalf of Robin Black, Priscilla Carapan, and our very hard-working Fight Network crew, I'm John Ramdeen. We'll see you next time.